Hi, my name is Casey Take and I'm a PhD student at New York University. While I really wish I could be there in Sydney today, I'm very excited to present our work remotely and happy to answer questions in the time remaining after. The title of our paper is It Feels Like Guacamole User Experiences of Data Removal from the People Search website. It's a collaboration between authors at three universities, New York University, Technical Institute at the University of Lisbon, and Drexel University. There has been a good amount of research on users' privacy rights and the influence of privacy regulation. Our research complements prior work by studying user experiences in the context of people search websites, where information is publicly available and easily accessible. Other related work has studied Internet users' risk perceptions as well as factors impacting security and privacy behaviors. Some of the factors impacting security and privacy behaviors are skill levels and socioeconomic statuses, as well as psychological factors. But first, what are people search websites? While there is no formal definition for people search websites, prior work has defined them as one of the services that data brokers offer or as a separate data broker type altogether. Sources of information typically are government records, other public records, or commercial sources. More concretely, if you've ever Google searched yourself or someone else, chances are you have encountered these sites. They usually display individuals' name and physical location. Some of them advertise themselves as reverse phone number directories or even suggest more specific use cases like intimate partner surveillance. The proliferation of people search websites that publicly display one's private information has led to the emergence of businesses that offer information removal service for a fee. In this presentation, from now on, we will refer to the companies as removal services. With this work, we set out to answer three primary research questions. What are users' perceptions of the people search website? What steps are required to accomplish removal? How is the experience of using a removal service? These three questions help us come up with suggestions and recommendations about how the removal service can be improved. Before we get into our findings, we will briefly describe our method. This work is mostly based on qualitative insight extracted from semi-structured interviews with 18 participants. We used the pre-screening survey to filter out those with no removal experiences and had a group representing almost all ages skewed towards individuals with higher level of education. Transcriptions of interviews were analyzed using thematic analysis and inductive iterative approach to coding with the goal of finding themes in the data. The screening survey, the semi-structured interview script, as well as more details on our recruitment methods as well as analysis process are included in the paper. Moving on to our findings and results, we found that the participants' risk perceptions of having PII publicly available were the primary motivation to seek removal. They perceived the risks they perceived mostly fell under two categories: direct and indirect use of publicly available PII. The most common risk perception associated with direct use of publicly available PII was online harassment, followed by identity theft concerns. Online harassment was perceived to also be a cause of reputation damage, mental health impact, and loss of physical safety. As the quote on the right describes, publicly available PII on the internet closes the geographical distance between the attacker and the target, and multiple participants describe their fear of the attacker finding their address and harming them physically. However, perceived risks were also associated with indirect use of the information. Three participants mentioned worries related to the linkability among different types of PII. One of them was particularly concerned with the limited number of data points necessary to identify a unique US citizen. 3 participants mentioned the Cambridge Analytica incident, and one of them explained how additional cues can be inferred from what initially looks like just superficial personal information. Some of the other themes that we encountered during the interviews were related to the perception of people search websites. Multiple participants explained thinking that the sites have dubious information handling practices and sometimes add artificial pieces of information to gain more user clicks. They also perceive that the sites have comprehensive information collection methods and are supplied by a variety of sources of information. 3 of the participants described being not surprised that their information was there, mostly because of the ever-increasing amount of data that is gathered by our online activities. Other participants expressed concern that the online availability and decreased cost make it easier to gain access to an individual PII. This means that access is now accessible to everyone on the internet, among whom also attackers with malicious intent. We talked to participants about the approaches they follow to remove information. While some opted for removal services that we mentioned briefly before, most attempted to remove information by themselves. One of the participants had been seeking removal since mid-2000 and explains that the removal process has evolved and gotten easier through the years. However, most participants describe encountering usability issues when seeking removal. One of such examples is ID verification, even though not very popular and mostly common in the past. Other dark patterns reported were difficulties finding removal instruction, obfuscated or inactive removal form links, which participants perceive as a deliberate attempt to discourage them from removal and aiming to maximize profits of the sites. Multiple participants explained that removal is not final, and in order to guarantee a satisfactory level of privacy, one needs to continuously submit removal requests. For this reason, one of them describes removal requests as band-aids on the problem. As previously mentioned, using a removal service is also an option, and 6 participants opted for it. In general, participants had good understanding of the service being offered and perceived the services as a way of throwing money at the problem while avoiding the time-consuming DIY process. One participant describes the removal service as harassment-preventing tool. However, removal services require many types of PII as part of their sign-up process. 2 of the participants we interviewed described feeling uncomfortable when supplying this information. Another concern expressed by a user is the lack of contextualization of the regular removal reports. Similar to the experience of participants doing the removal themselves, those using the service also explain that the removal is not final, and they mention being aware that they have to continuously pay for the service if they want to keep their information off of the internet. For more findings, we suggest you to look at the paper. Now we want to outline recommendations for user removal services and third parties based on our qualitative interviews. For users who are doing removal themselves, we recommend taking detailed notes, which can be helpful when going back to confirm if removal was successful, and dedicating and setting apart significant amount of time for this purpose. For those who are not able to do so, removal services are a great way to save time. For removal services to improve their service, we recommend increasing transparency and contextualization in their regular report, as well as offering privacy and security guarantees for their customers. However, also third parties could help transform the landscape of people search websites by creating and enforcing regulation, investigating dark patterns, and through regular audits. Researchers and non-profit organizations could work on automated removal methods, removal guides, and sessions for marginalized and at-risk populations. To summarize, through this study, we learned that participants seek removal from a variety of reasons, among which online harassment and financial concerns are the most popular, but they often also have other privacy concerns. We discovered that removal is time consuming and continuous, and information is very likely to show again in the sites. Therefore, we conclude that self-management of privacy by attempting to keep information of the internet is difficult, and its success it's hard to evaluate. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.